empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go. Welcome to the Scoop World Order. We are working on Easter edition, baby. Hope you and your family are having a wonderful Easter today. He is risen. This has been an amazing weekend for Ohio State football. And there's been so much breaking news and so much information coming to us that we couldn't wait till Monday. So here we are on Easter Sunday, bringing you guys the goods. We appreciate you guys. You guys have been out of this world, loyal to us, helping us grow this channel. Again, leave us a like. Again, these are adding up like crazy. The subscribers are skyrocketing. It's all because of you. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Buckeye Scoop family. We love you. We really try to work hard and put out a good product for you guys because we know how much you guys enjoy being in the know, knowing what is really going on inside the Woody Hayes, and that's what we got for you. So I'm going to bring in my good friend Nevadabuck. Nevada, we couldn't wait till Monday for this one because there's so much stuff popping. How's your Easter going today, my friend?
It's going good. Lots of things going on. Like you said, it's been a big day. It's normally Easter's kind of a quiet day, but not for Ohio State football. Yesterday was big, today was big, and lots of things happening and breaking even as we're recording. So lots of things going on.
Yeah, I'm literally checking my phone as things are popping right now. But we're going to start this one off. Obviously, the spring game went on yesterday. It might have been the most talented group of recruits we've ever had for a spring game. I mean, we had 5 stars, a ton of 4 stars, really high-end players. Number 1 player in the country, Dylan Raiola, was here. But in terms of the on-field product and what you saw, I was laughing watching how good Evan Pryor was doing because there isn't a human being on this earth that has been trumpeting Evan Pryor more than you over the last month, from what you've been told inside the building and how explosive he looks. And just tell me a little bit about some of your standouts, what you liked, maybe a few things you didn't like. But what was your initial reaction after watching the spring game yesterday?
Well, I think there's so many things. I mean, boy, we could have 4 episodes just on that, but I'll just try to keep it brief. I think to me, the defense just looks more cohesive. It's looked like they have a plan. Looks like they have an idea what they're doing, and I haven't felt that way the last couple of years. That was a big takeaway. I thought the Ohio State coaches were making a concerted effort to feature some guys, and I'll never talk about kids that speculate on who's going to be in the portal, but you can talk about who they certainly wanted to keep out of the portal, and kids like Evan Pryor, like you said, whether they're featuring him or Gee Scott, where he's getting so many balls thrown his way, or an Enoch Vihami who's getting the first team reps with the ones. You can tell who they want to keep out of the portal, and that's really what the spring game is really becoming about. Like a lot of the players, it's who they're trying to let them know that they're going to give them an opportunity, give them a chance, because the transfer portal has changed everything. So I think you got to watch for kind of the undercurrents, the kind of the untold stories in the spring game when you watch it carefully. I thought all 3 quarterbacks looked fine to me. CJ. The funny thing about the spring game is there's nothing about the spring game that you watch that game and say CJ Stroud, first pick overall, the consensus All-American, or franchise NFL quarterback. And I think it's just the format. It's just the way that things set up. I thought McCord looked fine. I thought he looked as good as CJ did. I thought Devin Brown looked like a freshman. Seemed to be throwing the ball hard, but not a lot of touch, and kind of spread it around a little bit out there. But I thought everything looked. It was a good spring game. We didn't have any major injuries. I don't believe Melton's the only one that we're waiting on an MRI on, and I thought there was it was a good performance all the way around, because no matter what happens in a spring game, somebody's going to look good and somebody looks good. If somebody gets a sack, that means some offensive lineman blew a play, or if somebody makes an interception, it means some quarterback threw a bad pass, or it's a zero-sum game. So I thought for what it was as good a spring game as we could possibly have hoped for given the circumstances.
And it's funny because nobody has panned and been harder on the spring game over the last 3 to 5 years than I have. And yesterday was probably the best one I've seen in a while. They actually went back to tackling. I've always wondered why they don't tackle. I get why you don't want Jackson Smith and Jigba tackled. I mean, I get that, CJ Stroud, obviously. But, if a guy has a backup and he hasn't played, or he's a guy's a freshman and he hasn't played, like, he needs to get hit a little bit. You got to get him shook up. I mean, Tress used to make the quarterbacks completely live except for the starter. But when we had quarterback competitions, there's a different level of pressure on an offensive lineman when you know that if you get beat, your quarterback's going to get hit hard. It's a different level, and that's something that it's like all of a sudden you're doing a combat training simulation with live bullets instead of blanks. It's like if you mess up, like someone's going to get hurt. So I mean, there's a different level. Now, I'm not advocating. I don't want quarterbacks get hurt, but like that's a real there's pressure. Like when you're playing offensive tackle and you get beat, someone's getting hit hard by a guy like Jack Sawyer, who is an absolute animal. He is my MVP of the spring. Just had a dominant performance against Paris. And you're looking at two 5-star all-world talents right there. And, Paris, he didn't have the best day. He had a couple penalties. He had a sack only in about 35 plays, so that would not be a winning performance. But, it's his first time back at left tackle, so it's kind of like riding a bike again, and he'll get used to it. But I think Jack Sawyer's rise has been one of the stories of spring because he played sparingly last year. He was much lighter last year. He was 230. And last year, he beat Grant Toutant for 4 sacks, the kid that, might not play much here. But, he's beating Paris now. That's a different world when you're beating a 5-star all-world freakazoid type talent. It's a different level than when you're beating, the guys that sack up statistics against guys that probably won't ever actually play on a real Saturday. So I loved it. I loved seeing the recruits were out in force. I think that, the staff, was working nonstop. I saw them out. I was actually having lunch and I saw them bringing them all out to town hall. Like they're having some nice, some food. And, I saw all those guys working hard, man. Cause it's a lot of work when you've got that many kids there and, you got to play this game with time where, how much do we dedicate to Dylan Raiola, who flies out on a Thursday night at midnight, and how much time do we dedicate to this other kid? And, Jaden Davis didn't even show up because Dylan Raiola took his spot. I mean, Dylan silently committed. It's a wrap. You put the equal signs on it. And, Jaden, there was gonna be this big, like 2 Rams running into each other, Jaden Davis and Dylan Raiola racing to commit on Saturday. But, Jaden got the word that you're out, and Dylan's in. So it's been one of those wild cycles, with recruiting and getting the #1 overall player in the country and Dylan Raiola to be in the fold for Ryan Day and Corey Dennis is spectacular. Any other closing thoughts? Any other standouts that you saw? I know there's a young safety that you were raving about. If you read our nuggets and then you watch the spring game, you're like, yeah, it was pretty good stuff. I'm telling you, because talk a little bit about some of the guys that sit out that you've been trumpeting for the last couple of weeks during practice.
Well, Kai Stokes is the guy, that not a lot of people were talking about. Kind of an unheralded kid coming into the recruiting class, and boy, he's been good all spring, and it really showed at the spring game. And I think people at the spring game are going to go, boy, who's this Kai Stokes guy? But our people on our board know we've been talking about it for quite some time. Jordan Hancock, another highly regarded kid who last year didn't get a lot of action, didn't get a lot of run. And he's been balling throughout the entire spring, him and Jacqueline Johnson. And I thought they were both terrific yesterday. The young defensive backs are sure coming on. It's like I said, Tanner McAllister had his moments. I thought Tommy Eichenberg had a nice game. You've got you've got a core of a really nice defensive unit right there, and you've got a coordinator who really knows how to coordinate and bringing things along. And like I said, for the defense to have taken those types of steps in this short period of time, it shows you that coaching does matter, coordination does matter. But there's also some subtle things that are, stand out. You saw things like, and we'll get into this more on the board here this week, but little things like the JTT spin move and the Jack Sawyer spin move. I haven't seen a lot of that in the last couple of years. And there's probably a reason why that we haven't seen a lot of that. That has to do with scheme and has to do with the types of rush lane contain that we were playing. But those are the subtle things. It's the little behind the scenes things that Jim Knowles is doing and putting into these pressure packages that I think Ohio State fans are going to be really excited about come the fall.
Yeah, sometimes with pass rushers, when they're just gifted, they're like artists. You got to let them do what they do. They have to take the chains off them at some point. And it's like Wade Phillips used to talk about when he coached Von Miller in Denver. Like on certain packages and plays, Von could literally do whatever he wanted. He could go inside, outside, loose contain, spin. And, the 2 guys behind you, the linebackers behind him, Von can do what he wants. You guys got to make it right. So it's kind of like one of those things where whatever he does, you guys got to do the opposite. And if he's supposed to be C gap and he spins into the B gap, then you guys got C gap. Or if he rushes speed rush in the C gap, you guys got B gap. So whatever he does, you just play off of that. And that's kind of it's the unique thing about Jim Knowles. I talked to one of my best sources, and it was hilarious because he's telling me about Knowles, and he's like, he's coming here right now, and he's just by himself, and this guy's been around the program for decades, and he's like, when these coaches come by themselves, no I think he had a girlfriend, but no family living with him, no wife living with him. It's like those coaches are really, really hard on the players because they literally have nothing else to do. Like, they don't have to take the wife out to dinner. There's no date night. There's no got to take the kids to practice. Like, that's all gone. It's literally just ball, 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 and more ball. So that defense is going to be tightened up in a big way because I'm telling you, that's all this guy's about is ball. And I'm excited as can be about it. So we're going to get into the number one player in the country. This is a great photo. This is when you're you're in the catbird seat, is when Corey Dennis is driving Dylan Raiola, Dominic, and his family on the golf cart for the spring game. There's no walking when you're the number one overall player. Most of the other recruits have to walk up to the gate and check in. Here, you just get on the little striped golf cart. It's so funny seeing Dom. But Nevada, tell me a little bit about what you heard inside Dylan Raiola's visit, kind of Ohio State's pitch, the commitment. Give me a little bit of that. I know we've done about 4 Dylan Raiola episodes, but there's some fresh info that you got to share.
Yeah, I think really what Ohio State kind of emphasized to Dylan this weekend was that, you come to Ohio State, you're coming to be developed. Nothing's promised. It's going to be kind of a hard hat, no nonsense type of approach to the quarterback position. You're going to come in, you're going to work your butt off, and you're going to become an NFL elite type of quarterback prospect. And I think that was emphasized by Corey Dennis, by Ryan Day, who did an outstanding job in this recruitment, and Coach Mick in terms of the strength and conditioning aspect of it. And that really appealed to the entire Raiola family. And I think that's why like I said, Ohio State, that they can't get enough credit for the outstanding job they've done on this recruitment, and just recruiting in general. They're high level, but on this particular one, they knocked it out of the park. They got the kid they want. They got the overall number one commit in the class, and like I said, it's just a great match. It's a great cultural match. Sometimes you just know when it fits, and it just fits right now, and couldn't be more excited about it.
Yeah, and Dylan is the arrow's pointed straight up. His quarterback coach is Drew Stanton's. For you longtime Ohio State fans, we played them in 06. Actually knocked him out of the game. He was at Michigan State, really good quarterback. Played in the NFL for a long time. He was actually on the Browns during Hard Knocks when they had a few years ago. So he was with Baker and Tyrod Taylor. And I'm excited for this one because I obviously know his old man. I mean, he's a hard hat warrior. They're proud Polynesians, Hawaiian, and they're warriors. Like, literally, they're bred to be warriors. They're tough. They love tough. They love work. Nobody outworks these guys. And the old man was an absolute monster. He's a beast. The first guy you'd want to be in the foxhole with. I'm just telling you. I mean, him and Olin Kreutz are probably my 2 best friends in the NFL, and they just happen to be best friends that knew each other forever. And getting a kid who's got a dad like that, he's not a clown. He's not going to complain about anything, and I think that really resonates with Ohio State and work and Coach Mick. And Coach Mick is one of those guys that never gets talked about in recruiting articles. He never gets talked about in, Brian Hartline's a great recruiter and all. It's like Coach Mick is one of the best recruiters on the staff. He just doesn't get he doesn't go on the road. He doesn't, but like when he sits down with these parents and these kids and you put out his resume, it's like, oh my God. Like, I mean, if you want your kid to be developed, now he can't guarantee he's going to be a first round pick or whatever, but if the biggest thing you want when you send a kid somewhere is you want him to be developed to his fullest potential, maximum. You don't want there to be any meat on the bone when he's graduating or he's declaring for the draft. And that's what he does. Like, he takes these kids that are super talented, makes them bigger, stronger, faster, tougher mentally, It's the whole package, and that's why I love Coach Mick. I've always loved Coach Mick. We've had this fondness for each other just because I used to be like the strongest guy in the building back when I worked there. So he's my guy, and I'm just so happy that to hear him get credit for what's going on in that building and the recruiting and and they say right away, if you want easy, don't come to Ohio State because it ain't easy. It ain't for the half steppers, the guys that just want to show up and work on the weekdays and do the minimum amount. This is big time ball, and the only way you can do big time ball is, I mean, you gotta there's no clock. You can't be a clock watcher. You got to be in that building working, grinding, and that culture that in there right now is infectious. You see guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. on the jugs machine at 10 o'clock at night, and these guys running routes on Sunday night instead of kicking it. I mean, it's an infectious culture, and it's really cool. I'm really happy for him. Frankly, I wish that there was more of that back when I played. I mean, there were guys, Johnny Simon and I would break into the gym and, we'd leave a towel on the door and they'd get all mad at us. But, we wanted to work out on Saturday and Sunday. So it's like, we're going to figure out a way to get in that gym. I promise you. So, we also had 2 commitments today on Easter. So, the Dylan Raiola thing is a silent commitment. He could pop at any time. It's just kind of whenever Dylan feels like it. But there's a mutual understanding. When Jaden Davis didn't even show up, he was given the message, hey, thanks, but no thanks. Dylan, I mean, it's been done, but Jaden Davis not even showing up when he planned to show up and his tweet's still up. It's pretty interesting. So Dijon Johnson, Nevadabuck, we got him in the fold. Lanky corner from Florida. Tell me a little bit about Dijon. While you're doing that, I'm going to pop some film on, and we can kind of run that while you're talking about him.
Yeah, well, Dijon's a kid. He's the prototypical size for a cornerback. That 6'1", 190 range type of quarterback. He can run. He can cut. I mean, he plays both sides of the ball. He's a return guy as well. Yeah, just got great coverage skills. Super tough. Long arms. I mean, he's got it all. He's the total package. He's a guy that Ohio State had really high on the board. I think he's a 4-star, but I think Ohio State has him even higher on the board than some kids that are higher rated than him. He's somebody that they really coveted, and super excited to get his commitment. He's another guy that one of my best sources is like, hey, he's got the potential to be the next great cornerback at Ohio State, and that's really saying something considering the number of cornerbacks and the quality of cornerbacks that we put out over the last 10 years.
Yeah, and it's always interesting to see when you see a kid who's this talented playing corner here. It's interesting. Every time he gets his hands on the ball, he's gone. I mean, this guy has got jets, and I mean, you see him. I mean, these guys don't even try. Like, look at this. Like, look at this is just I just submit right here, just quits. I mean, because he catches it, man. This guy's got jets, and he is gone. And it is a pick six, and great anticipation. But it's always hard for me because I always think that like when you have a kid this good, you don't play him at safety just because then they can't throw. But they try a wheel route here, which is a bad move, and he gets it, and the kid's lucky he's in position. But normally when he catches it, he's gone. I mean, he's going the other way with it. But he's impressive, man. And like I love that we got one in the fold here for Tim Moulton, Perry Eliano, Jim Knowles. I mean, our young corners look fantastic. It's like here, it's like. I mean, the Jets get turned on, and I mean, he's got, but this is incredible. This is the one I was talking about where I was like, it's like he turned down the tackling on Madden to 0 for these guys because look at this effort and this determination, and he takes that to the crib. He's got 2 guys on him, so I love that. That means he's competitive. He doesn't go down easy, which I mean, I don't know how many pick sixes you're gonna get in your life, but I love watching this because he gets his hands on the ball, man. He's looking to that end zone, man. And those are the biggest game changers. And when you get a pick six, it reminds me of Chris Gamble. Some of these guys, it's look again. I mean, I don't even know why you're trying this kid, but these guys they keep trying. I mean, it doesn't seem to end up very well. But I don't know who I see. Yeah, I mean, I love the physicality on this gym. Good Lord, puts the kid in the dirt. You love seeing this, man. If you're, and again, you get him with Coach Mick. I mean, it'll be even more impressive. But he's got great mentality. He's tough. It's the hardest position to play in sports, maybe other than like an ice hockey goalie. But cornerback with the rules now is so difficult, and it's so and the skill of the offense, the skill of the receivers, quarterbacks, coordinators. It's it's just almost become impossible to be a great corner, which is why guys like Jalen Ramsey get made. They're making $25 million a year, to play to be the number one corner in the NFL. Yeah, this is a good squat, good bend. I love, we get two kids from Florida that, are coveted by all the Southern schools, and we pull them up to Ohio. It's amazing. And, I think that it's just, it speaks loudly to, the work that we've done down there. I mean, that's of all the states that we've had a lot of success. I mean, Florida's been right up there with recruits. And again, there's another, to the crib again. What do you think? You watched a few clips, Nevada.
Yeah, I mean, he reminds me of Denzel Ward in terms of his approach to the game and the way he plays and the way he likes to stick his nose in there and make that. Like I said, he's a big guy. Like you see him, he's like kind of towering over these wide receivers. And like you said, he's got a nose for the end zone when he gets the ball. He's looking to score every time when he puts his hands on it, whether it be on offense, defense, or special teams. And some kids just have a knack for it, and Dijon Johnson definitely has a knack for making big plays, making high impact plays, and game changing type of plays.
Yeah, and yeah, I feel coming out of spring ball in general, how much better do you feel about our cornerback situation after watching those young corners in the spring game?
Well, yeah, it's night and day. I mean, just our whole defense. But
Yeah.
the corners have they. That's one thing we've done. We recruited. We didn't have great numbers, but the quality was there. We just knew that we had to put them in a position to do well. But I think the state of the cornerback room is getting better and better, and I feel way better about where we are now than we were a year ago. And I think it's just going to get better as the years go on. But we're definitely on the uptick in that particular position group, and that's definitely a good thing.
So I'm just gonna say I love when they put on plays like this on a highlight reel, because generally, like when you're watching a corner, it's like pick six, it's deflections, it's tackles. This is him as an anti-gunner. An anti-gunner is the guy, he's on the punt return team. It's basically him versus the gunner. Everyone's always heard of the gunner. Urban Meyer loves putting like Devin Smith and Terry McLaurin, like, are really fast receivers out there at gunner. Because generally, the way we do punt, they don't end up tackling anybody. We hit it with enough hang time where they just run down and scream, some some four-letter word or whatever at the punt returner, hoping that he muffs it. But here's an anti-gunner. This is if you want to get on the field as a freshman, be a good anti-gunner, because they're always looking for those guys. And he doesn't take the play off, takes it seriously, smokes the guy, puts him in the dirt. And he's excited. Like it's like anytime you put a guy in the dirt against his will, it always feels really good. But I'm excited about him. I'm really excited about him. I think he's going to be an impact guy. He's a little slight right now, but I think with our strength program and with Mick and everything, he's got a world of upside. And that's it's always exciting when you see these guys that are a little thinner, and then all of a sudden you get them in that strength program and they just blow up and they look amazing. So our last topic, Bryson Rogers, wide receiver, from Florida, another Florida boy. Quick thoughts on Bryson Rogers, Nevada. He is a four-star kid. Brian Hartline obviously has carte blanche recruiting receivers. So, Brian has forgotten more about wide receiver play and wide receiver recruiting than any of us will ever know. So if Brian's good with it, I'm good with it, obviously, just because that's how good he's been. And that's why Ryan Day gives him more leeway than any coach in the history of Ohio State football. From what I've been told, like it's his own deal. He does what he wants to do. No one checks on him, and he just keeps churning out first rounders. But what do you think of Bryson Rogers? I'm going to pull his tape up next.
Yeah, I mean, Bryson's a kid, you're talking about a 6'2", 170, 175 type of kid, big time speed, take the top off a defense kind of reminds me a little bit of Keon Grays for guys you're looking for in the current class. Somebody who can make all the catches, but can certainly take it over the top. And, another guy that, is somewhat lightly regarded by the recruiting services, but Ohio State's really excited about this kid. They had him high on the board, and as you pointed out, Hartline is one of the few position coaches that we've ever remembered that had, you know, kind of you use the word carte blanche. But he's just got the right to offer whoever he wants. He doesn't have to check. He's he's going on his own in terms of this. He's going on his own instincts. And this is a guy that Hartline had really, really high on his recruiting board. And I know that the Ohio State in the Woody in the recruiting room, they're very excited about this kid. And when you watch these highlights, you'll see why.
Yeah, for me, Bryson, well, I'm just gonna go back to Brian. Like Brian, there's certain things he likes to hear, see. He really gets in deep with these kids and evaluates, their approach, their mentality, what they're really about. And I think that's why his hit rate is so high, And then obviously when you have Ryan Day's offense and, we keep producing, it's like with Dylan Raiola and, and like I said, I've known the old man. I mean, he's one of my best friends. And it's literally, you've got we're going to have 3 straight 3-and-out first-round quarterbacks when C.J. Stroud declares and goes to the draft next year. Barring injury, barring anything crazy, I mean, that's insane. So, when you're a kid who wants the ball and you can look at Ohio State in the way that we roll receivers through, the way that we, hey, you might be the number 5 guy, but you're going to get, however many catches, you're going to play a lot. We're not a, let's run 3 guys out there and they play the whole game. Like we're hockey line shifts really at a lot of positions. Like we're getting a lot of rotation, and which is great because the season isn't getting shorter. We've talked about how, they're likely to expand the playoffs. They're likely to, there's Big Ten championship game now. So, these seasons are getting almost horrifically long. They're great for fans, but for players, man, it's like you get, it's exhausting by the time you're at game 14 or whatever, 15. And I think that the rotation thing is really key to keeping these guys fresh during a really long season that keeps getting longer. But, I love his game. He's playing a lot of slot here, but I mean, he gets open, catches a rock. I mean, the separation's crazy, but like I said, I mean, he's a guy that could play at any of the positions. He could play in the slot. He could play at the X, could play the Z. The X, the X is like Garrett Wilson. Z is Olave, kind of your deep threat. H is your slot, which is Jackson Smith and Jigba. And basically, it's funny because last year we basically had 3 perfect prototypes for those positions. Like when I played, for you old heads, like Santonio Holmes would have been the X, Ted Ginn would have been the Z, and Gonzo would have been the H. So, you got your slot guy, you got your speed guy, and you got your monster. I mean, the X is usually the biggest dog on the team, which, Garrett Wilson was our best receiver. He'll get drafted the highest. But yeah, as you watch this, I mean, this is good ball. This is Florida ball. There's a lot of speed on the field. And I mean, he obviously looks like he's the fastest guy on the field, and great route there, great ball. What are you seeing as you watch this? I love the ball spin. Don't do that in the Big Ten, man. They'll throw you out.
Yeah, you see, I just you see a little bit of Chris Olave in him. Like I said, he's really a technical route runner, which is really something that's rare, and that's one of the things again that Hartline's looking for these kids. And he's a lot more polished than the average kid who's just getting by with pure athleticism. He's knowing how to give him the kind of that inside foot and kind of drive on the ball. And that's why they have him in the slot a lot there, is because he gets favorable matchups and he can kind of do his thing against the defense. And I couldn't be more excited about this commit. This is a guy that's going to be really good for Ohio State, and he's going to be a household name for Ohio State fans who are coming up the next 3 or 4 years for sure.
Yeah, it's weird as I watched this orbit motion this pass, because I was wondering, is this a wide receiver pass? Because it's behind, the quarterback's lateraling of the ball, so this is a running play, and but none of the receivers are turning back to look. But that's an interesting look out of him. But yeah, I mean, there's not much there, but he just bursts and is gone. I mean, the kid, he runs away from a lot of guys, and I never ever get caught up in recruiting rankings, because a lot of the guys that make these rankings, they've never played football. They don't know a ton about football. They kind of just compare each other's homework. So like when Brian Hartline rates a kid, I mean, it's like, that's like a real recruiting. Like I look at the offer lists. I look at who, if Nick Saban offers a defensive back, he's a 5-star. If Brian Hartline offers a wide receiver, he's a 5-star. If, Harry Heastan offers an O-line guy, he's a 5-star. I mean, these guys aren't, they're not, when they're saying, hey, I'm going to sign my life to you, I'm going to sign my family's standard of living to you, then that's more important to me than what a guy who works for a recruiting service thinks, because they, these coaches, their whole livelihoods are based on these kids. I mean, a recruiting service, I mean, you can put in some time, you can watch a little film, go to a couple camps, whatever, but it ain't the level of depth isn't even anywhere close to what these guys that have to do it for a living have to put into it. So, that was one of the great things with when I worked with Urban is like, he talked about when certain coaches offer certain positions, it was almost like an automatic offer for us. Like, I mean, he used to talk about, Bobby Petrino was a great running backs evaluator. Saban was a great DB evaluator. Like, there's certain coaches that you really take notice of how they seem to keep finding not just the 5 stars. I mean, it's easy to pick, to offer Jadeveon Clowney, but when you get like a guy who is a just a 3-star, but he really should have been a 5-star, and that happens consistently. That means that guy's a really good evaluator of talent. So, but I mean, there's some guys. Obviously, if a guy's a freak of nature, if it's Paris Johnson, Jadeveon Clowney, Joey Bosa, like you don't need an evaluator to tell you how good that is. I mean, but they were. I mean, I'll never forget how wrong they were on Ezekiel Elliott versus Derek Green, because Derek was a kid that I really liked, and Derek played. He was actually on my 7-on-7 team that we had at camp, and really nice kid. Went to Curtis Grants High School. Grew up an Ohio State fan. Wore number 27 for Eddie George. His grandpa's a diehard Ohio State fan. But we looked at the tape, and he didn't dominate. And he played really bad ball in Virginia, like in terms of the competition. And Ezekiel, played low level Missouri football, but he was absolutely phenomenal. And he's a hurdler. There's all these little traits you look at, and there wasn't a single recruiting service that had Ezekiel, had a Derek Green, but then you look back at it and you're like, how could they miss by that much? So, these coaches, they put a lot of time into this, and we, our bust rate keeps getting smaller, which is really difficult to do in modern college football, but it's just because of how thorough our guys are. So, but this has been a good one, man. This is a big Easter edition. We're gonna get this uploaded quick so you guys can watch it tonight. Nevada, any closing thoughts on our wonderful spring weekend we had?
Nah, just it was a big weekend. Like I said, great spring game. Couple of commits. Got some more commits coming on. Lots of things going on, and I think the next 3 or 4 weeks for Ohio State are going to be very interesting to watch to see if there is any movement, potentially from a portal standpoint. So I think there's going to be a lot of intrigue here the next month in Ohio State football. It's going to be a good time to be keeping a close eye on things.
Yeah, I think the portal is going to be fascinating in the next month to see if some guys jump, because frankly, if you set Vegas odds, will there be people in the portal? Yes or no? Like, yes would be like minus 2,500. It would be huge, 25 to 1 odds to, or they'd be gone. But I don't know, man. I like for me, I hate that part of the game, but I understand, when you see kids like, G. Scott looked great, and what kind of roles he going to have in this offense, some of these linemen that are getting a little older, haven't played as much, what kind of, even some of our older, like linebackers, I don't know where Trash Mitchell is on the depth chart. I don't know where, some of these guys are getting a little older. EA, the kid that came in from USC, like, I don't know, I don't know. I hear a lot about Tommy Eichenberg and Steel Chambers, and Cody Simon missed most of the spring from his shoulder surgery, but I think he'll be in the fold just from his athletic standpoint. And then you got CJ Hicks and Gabe Powers nipping at their heels, running around quick, aggressive kids. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if people are, like Bryson Shaw and Legend Cavazos both took off, and they're older guys. And I mean, Bryson Shaw was a starter, but we watched that spring game, and I don't know who he's playing over. I mean, I don't know if he's playing over Kai Stokes. I don't know if he's playing over when Josh Proctor gets back. I mean, so some of these guys, they're going to see the writing on the wall, and they're going to have to make a tough decision. But with that, we appreciate you guys. Thank you, Nevada. I'm going to send us out of here. Again, guys, thank you so much. Happy Easter. BuckeyeScoop.com. Again, we've been absolutely on fire. It's been crazy. The biggest news is broken here. It's just been unbelievable how much fun it's been. It's kind of fun when you have really good practice sources. You do your little updates, and then all of a sudden you watch the spring game, and it all, big chunks of it get confirmed. So it's just fun. And again, this is for the biggest Ohio State fans, the biggest fans of Buckeye Nation. This is your community. We would love to have you. Most active message board in the business, and personally guarantee you that it's only getting better every day. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Have a happy Easter. Thank you, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Buckeye Scoop family. You guys have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.